Nothing gets sim racing enthusiasts hyped like new gear. We're always chasing more. More power, more force feedback detail, more immersion, and of course more lap time. With direct drive wheelbases becoming the standard and so many options on the market, now is the best time to get into sim racing or upgrade your old rig. But with all these choices, picking the right upgrade has become harder than ever. That's where the Fanatec ClubSport DD Plus comes in. A wheelbase that aims to deliver high-end performance without the extreme price tag of the top-tier direct drive wheelbases. Positioned between Fanatec's entry-level CSL DD and the high-end Podium series, it promises strong force feedback, smooth performance, and broad compatibility. But does it truly deliver on those promises? And is it the right upgrade for your setup? Let's find out. Describing the ClubSport DD Plus is a little bit tricky, because while it's positioned as an enthusiast-level racing wheelbase, it might actually be closer to the pro level than we realize. Priced at $999.95 USD, identical to the Podium DD1, it sits just below the DD2 in Fanatec's pricing lineup. On paper, it delivers 15 Nm of continuous torque, but unlike many competitors, Fanatec hasn't shared a peak torque spec. Instead, they highlight best-in-class slew rate and thermal stability, though they don't provide any specific performance details. The DD Plus also introduces Fanatec's new full force technology, promising a new level of force feedback detail, and it's dual compatible with PlayStation and PC, a huge plus for console racers. But the specs only tell part of the story. Let's take a look at the hardware and talk about the first impressions of the build quality. The ClubSport DD Plus shares many design elements with the CSL DD Pro, including T-slot mounting options on the side and bottom. While it's not the most compact or sleek design, it's highly functional, making it easy to position the wheelbase exactly where you need it. Fanatec has also improved the connection port layout, borrowing the CSL DD Pro's cleaner design instead of the more cluttered setup on the standard CSL DD. But the biggest and the best change? There's no more large retaining ring holding the steering shaft and the base. Instead, Fanatec uses 4 bolts directly attached to the quick release, creating a more solid connection and a cleaner look. One small trade-off of this design is that it does shorten the distance between the wheel and the base, but for the first time, Fanatec actually has an easy fix. They've created a shaft extension that you can add on which extends 150 millimeters, basically helping you fine-tune the driving position and get a more realistic field of view. With its CNC machined aluminum housing and solid feeling weight, the build quality leaves a strong first impression, but how easy is it to set up? Let's get it mounted and see how it compares to other direct drive wheelbases. It's important to note that the ClubSport DD Plus is among the stronger wheelbases on the market, so a sturdy rig is a must. There are table mounting options available, but as always, aluminum profile is my go-to for a rock-solid setup. Fanatec also finally released the ClubSport GT cockpit, originally designed and revealed by Corsair before the acquisition, and honestly, that looks pretty sweet too. Speaking of Corsair, things seem to be going a lot smoother at Fanatec since they took over. Things like shipping times, customer support, and even firmware updates have gotten a lot better. I haven't really had any issues at all switching to the new wheelbase. Once the base is mounted, setting up is pretty straightforward. Installing the Fanatec software is essential for PC use, and some firmware updates will probably be required. Out of the box, mine was limited at 8 Nm, but after a quick firmware update, I had access to 15 Nm immediately. The firmware updates were quick, smooth, and I didn't have any issues at all whatsoever. If you have other Fanatec gear, now's a good time to check for firmware updates for that as well. The DD Plus is compatible with pretty much all Fanatec wheels and pedals. Older wheels may need a QR2 upgrade, and if you're looking to use non-Fanatec or a real car wheel, you'll need to get the Fanatec Podium hub to avoid limitations of other universal hubs. Now that we have everything dialed in, let's talk about performance. At 15 Nm, the ClubSport DD Plus is not the most powerful wheelbase on the market. And even if its peak power is hitting 20 Nm, there's still a few bases ahead in raw power. But power isn't everything. Very few cars will actually require extreme strength to drive. The real advantage of high-powered direct drive wheelbases is response time, fidelity, and torque consistency. Since the DD Plus delivers a constant 15 Nm of torque, there should be no degradation in force feedback over long sessions. And there isn't. Even after hours of racing, the wheelbase still feels incredibly consistent. And one of the things I love about testing at the Nürburgring is you can really dial in on the fidelity of the wheelbase and just understand like how much feedback you're actually getting because of how bumpy and how many different textures there are in the road. And It just feels absolutely amazing and so incredibly smooth. Fanatec's flux barrier and offset motor segments make the wheelbase buttery smooth. That's one of the things I love about Fanatec. The precision and smoothness are just hard to match. I'm sure it won't come as a surprise to you guys, but the dynamic range is a huge step up over lower powered wheelbases. But the real game changer is the full force technology. Fanatec's new force feedback protocol adds vibration detail that simulates road texture, curbs, and traction loss. It's not just being able to feel the bumps, but you can really feel the texture of the surface like you would in a real car. While full force is still an evolving technology and still being implemented in a lot of games, some games and tracks do implement it better than others, but the feature is something that I think truly sets the DD and the DD Plus apart from the competition. It's just that extra layer of detail that makes it that much more immersive when you're going around the track and makes you feel that much more connected as if you were driving a real car. Unlike other Fanatec wheelbases, there aren't many widely recommended settings for the DD Plus yet. What I kind of found works best is to take the CSL DD settings, apply them to this wheelbase, increase to 15 Newton meters, and then fine tune from there to see what works well. And ultimately, for each game that I've done that with, I've had to make some adjustments to get it to feel just right. And I'm still working on dialing in some of the newer games that I haven't played as much. But overall, that seems to be the best method to solving this issue. As for the Fanatec software, it does allow you to create multiple profiles for quick switching between different games and racing disciplines. There's also a standard tuning menu for those of you who aren't quite ready to dive into the advanced settings yet. I know I've said a lot of good things about the wheelbase, and you're probably thinking it can't all be perfect, right? Honestly, I've been hard-pressed to find anything bad to say about this wheelbase, but I guess if I had to pick a few things, a few drawbacks just to name, I would start by saying I guess the steering shaft length could be an issue, but the shaft extension fixes that. If you're not going to use it on PlayStation, then the PlayStation tax might be kind of a drawback, and you might consider that the ClubSport DD is a better value. But really, for that extra $200 difference, you're not just getting PlayStation compatibility, you're getting 3 extra Newton meters of torque, and you're getting a better slew rate. And while the slew rate might be negligible between the two, something that you and I wouldn't notice, that extra 3 Newton meters of torque is no difference than paying $150 to boost the CSL DD, where you get an extra 3 Newton meters of torque. So price-wise, there's not much of a tax to it, and really, I think it's worth it overall to just spend the extra few $100, go as big as you can, buy once, cry once, as I said before. The only other drawback I can think of to mention is that full force support is still growing, but that's something that's really on the game developers. It's not so much on Fanatec to get that implemented. And I think it's something that we all want to see if we have accessibility to it. And as Fanatec continues to roll out wheelbases that use it, it'll become more useful and more detailed and just become better over time. But these things are easily overshadowed by how good the DD Plus feels. The Fanatec ClubSport DD Plus is a powerhouse. If you're considering getting into sim racing or upgrading your rig, and sim racing is just something you want to take seriously, I highly recommend putting this on your list for consideration, because I don't know of any, or at least very many, other wheelbases that are going to be able to provide the same experience that the DD Plus can. For me, the choice was between Fanatec and Simucube. Both offer a high quality, smooth force feedback experience, but full force kind of tipped the scale in Fanatec's favor in my case. It's a choice I've been really happy with up to this point. For those of you looking to upgrade your rig that want to take sim racing seriously, the DD Plus is a great option. I know there's other wheelbases out there, but very few are going to offer the quality and just the level of immersion that the DD Plus can. It really is kind of foreshadowing of what we can expect from future podium wheelbases. And it's something where I think at some point in the near future, we're going to see Fanatec on pro rigs again. If you guys are considering making a purchase from Fanatec, make sure you check out the affiliate link in the description. It just helps support me and the channel so that we can have access to more things to test and review in the future. And if you guys notice some changes to the sim rig, it probably looked a little more stripped down than you're used to seeing it if you've been on the channel before. But over the next several weeks, I'm going to be working on building the most immersive sim rig interior I think anybody's seen yet. And I'm going to be using 3D printing to try to achieve that. So it's something I'm really excited about, and I hope you guys will follow along with that. So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.